No masters, no slaves, no rulers, no state, no taxes, no cage. To see it is to leave it. No masters, no slaves, no rulers, no state, no taxes. It is to leave it.
Voluntarist Academy is an educational platform dedicated to the principles of non-aggression, self-ownership, and the ethical philosophy of voluntarism. Here, we reject the mythology of political authority and embrace the timeless truth that all human interaction should be grounded in consent and moral integrity. Through rigorous study, in-depth courses, and accessible materials, Voluntarist Academy equips individuals with the tools to critically examine the foundations of coercive systems and to replace them with voluntary, peaceful alternatives rooted in natural law. Whether you are new to these ideas or looking to deepen your understanding, Voluntarist Academy provides a structured path to intellectual freedom, ethical consistency, and personal sovereignty. I want to welcome you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Explore the curriculum, challenge false assumptions, learn to live free. Okay, so tonight we're going to continue with the End of All Evil series. This is going to be chapter 5 and 6, and it's going to be pretty hard hitting. And I want to kind of give a caveat or a warning to people listening to this that this is kind of a worldview shattering type of presentation. This is personally, when I saw this for the first time, I was pretty taken aback. I had never thought about these things in this way before. So, before we get there, please go over to voluntaristacademy.com, sign up to the newsletter in case this channel gets stricken off of YouTube. If you sign up to the newsletter, you'll be able to stay in touch with me. You can also choose to become a sponsor and support this channel in various ways. $3 a month for the time being. And, yeah, probably for forever, really. But anyways, you can also make one-time donations over here as well to help keep this project going and growing. You can get all the resources that we explore on this channel, all of the PDFs that we go through on this channel, including The End of All Evil, which is a very difficult book to find. You can get a physical copy of that book over at endevil.life. Endevil.life is run by Chris Jansen, and he's cool. He's a good friend. And you can get that over at his store. It's a facsimile copy, so it's not an actual, it's a real copy, but it's not like an original. So facsimile is just like, you know, for books, it's just a reprint. So anyways, you can have fun getting your own little copy of that book from Chris and support another bold explorer of this reality and a proponent of natural law. Chris Jansen is also one of the co-organizers of the Funnel Conference, Freedom Under Natural Law, a couple weeks ago. We had a good time at that conference. Go back and check it out, freedomundernaturallaw.com. Okay, so enough rambling on about that. So I'm James Cordiner, if you don't know that by now, and I do this every week. And yeah, it's becoming quite fun. We breached 500 subscribers, so that's really cool. Thank you, everybody who subscribes to this channel. If you don't by now, get in on the action. Have fun being a subscriber to the channel, and you can support the show that way as well by doing that. All right, without any further ado, we're gonna. Oh, okay, that was weird. But okay, so without any further ado, we're gonna get right into the presentation and make sure that my buttons are working. All right. Chapter 5 is tactics. There is no such thing as anarchy. There is only tyranny. All cultures teach the nobility of authority. All pretend to defend the security of people against enemies who would do harm. The common thread amongst every authority in history is the universal enemy of anarchy. While cultures have addressed or have added racism, economy, terrorism, nationalism, and countless other enemies to the mix, anarchy exists as the enemy of every culture. There is no such thing as anarchy. You will not kill your neighbor in the absence of police. You are not evil. Those who wish this type of control and violence over others teach you that you are not worthy of ruling yourself. They teach that you lack intelligence, self-control, and value. They teach that only government can rule you. The word government means tyranny. It exists to establish ownership of you. You need no governing. You are a human being, and as such have infinite worth. You and you alone rightfully control your actions, your speech, and your labor. All who seek these things of you must receive your permission first. All who do not are evil. Anarchy is a lie. It is created by tyrants to deceive you. There is no such thing as anarchy. There is only tyranny. Royalty as a tactic. Remember, we're going through tactics here. Royalty. From the earliest days of man, there have been those who looked around them and saw others as tools to be used. Instead of building themselves up in wisdom and understanding where infinite prosperity is possible, they designed on the laziness of theft and control. In primitive form, these are men who would use superior physical strength and the threat of violence to cower people. The demands they made were simple. Money. The stronger men could live off of the work of others. The success of such men is measured in modern culture's terms for them. Some are thugs and brutes, others barbarians and bandits. Because of their limited success and unending brutality, such evil rarely held people in bondage for long. Revolts and power struggles were common. It was extremely difficult for a person to maintain his grip of extortion over people. As history progressed, men of significantly more cunning devised the element of control necessary to stabilize power over people. This element is culture. Instead of extortion and brutality, they created the notions of rightful rule and royalty. Their objective was to preclude the people from revolt by teaching them that their authority was legitimate. This is the singular objective of all culture. For thousands of years, the culture of royalty enslaved all of humanity under the names of chiefs, king, and emperor. All titles of nobility were designed to reinforce the image of familial loyalty. People who are naturally respectful and deferent towards their families were taught that royalty was the greater family. The king was, in all cultures, viewed as something between a father and a god. This idolatry of the family is the cornerstone of royalty. People were taught that they obey nobility was people were taught that to obey nobility was the greater form of respecting their father and mother. Culture's objective was to twist the understanding of people so that they believed that extortionists held a rightful place in their lives. The result was that people rarely fought back. Every aspect of the culture of royalty taught people to the concepts such as nobility, loyalty, duty, and honor. Each of these ideas are lies. They are designed to teach people that their worth is less than the worth of the king. Without the trappings of culture, he would simply be a thug taking food and labor at the point of a sword. With it, he is His Majesty, the king. All culture is lie, designed specifically to keep the powerful in power. History of freedom. As the era of kings was closing, cultures began to disintegrate and freedom grew. This was precipitated by two very specific and very powerful attacks against royalty: the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence. Every time cultures are attacked, people begin to learn more about their value. When rebellion spread among people of astounding courage, culture lost its grip and people were able to see that there was no king who had claim upon them. They started to see a glimpse of their own worth. The engineers of evil understood that the world had finally learned how to see past the culture of royalty. With the astonishing speed of only a few generations, they engineered the culture of nations to replace it. Under the umbrella of nationality, people are slaves to borders more than at any time in history. The power of quote-unquote my king has been replaced with the culturally superior quote-unquote our country. Nations have caused greater death and slavery than any degree of royalty ever envisioned. The history of freedom shows that even as nations grow strong, the cultural lessons from royalty have been learned. Freedom progresses around the world as population increases. Cultures are destroyed by freedom routinely, and the lessons of each new tactic of deceit are being learned around the world. The violence of nations increases as the cries of freedom are raised. Hundreds of millions have been murdered and billions enslaved in recent history, all in futile attempts by evil men to stay in power. As the stability of their empires is challenged, they rain blood upon the heads of their protectorates. The history of freedom shows that such violence is not the growth of evil, but its death. Violence and the enforcement of law are necessary only when culture's grip fails to effectively control the minds of people. The death of kings, the transitions of nations, the mutations of culture, and the violence of governments are evidence of the end of evil. Authorities of all kinds are struggling for breath in a world that is learning how to drown them forever. In the world you and I occupy, the war is already won. We have only to watch evil die. Nations. Nations are a generic umbrella of culture that prove extremely effective for authorities. Nations use commonality in race, language, and heritage to persuade ownership of people. Their only shared agent is the border. As the cultures of royalty disintegrated, nations were created to replace them. Authority sought the same stability of extortion that kingdoms provided, but needed to escape the understanding that people had learned about the tyranny of royalty. They created a new enemy called quote-unquote them, and a new culture called quote-unquote we. Nations drew lines across the globe and eventually swallowed up every inch of inhabitable land known to man. All those who live within these lines become the property of the state. They are taught that they own their governments by means of democracy, communism, theocracy, and race. They are taught that their nations belong to them. This is the culture of quote unquote we. The truth is that their nations own them. Nations are created and borders drawn to create stability for authority. While royalty improved stability by convincing people that they owed allegiance to authority, nations took a bigger step and taught people that they were the authority. National cultures deceive the minds of people to more effectively extort money and control. As soon as you lend credibility to a predatory institution, they will make prey of you. Disguised as sheep, they will have you believe that they are defending you from anarchy or any other kind of enemy they can devise. Their laws do not speak of these enemies. They speak of you, how much money you owe, and what you will do for them. Government is an agent of force. As soon as power is yielded to authority, as soon as you give it license to take life and liberty, it becomes an agent of evil. Evil men who seek authority over you will not fight government. All evil that wants is power over you. Evil naturally seeks its place in government. There have been many forms of nations created, all with varying degrees of effectiveness in their control. Without exception, the strongest governments are those whose culture most effectively convinces people that the people are the government. All others soon fail and fall. This is why democracies are the strongest form of nation possible. They are introduced last. Communism and socialism as a tactic of evil. Socialism, communism, and welfare states all have different applications in history and idea, yet they are all exactly the same. They all teach people that they are unable to effectively produce enough to support their own lives. They are given the enemies of greed and destitution as the reasons why authority is needed in their lives. Communism is the second most effective form of evil that has ever existed, and it is the most destructive ever achieved. Communism taught that people require equality of materials rather than the freedom to create. Communism used the lie that people would be part owners of the government in order to garner their support for slave labor and soldiering. Anybody reading the implementation of communism or its similar constructs should readily see evil. There is nothing wrong with a community helping each other. There is no sin in sacrifice or giving, but as with all culture, these ideas were lies. There is no sacrifice in communism and socialism, and there is no giving. They are always implemented by force. Socialism and welfare teach that people do not own their own labors. They distract people with cultural ideals of duty and brotherhood. Their true nature is the nature of force. Nothing in welfare and socialism is done by choice. Everything is implemented under threat of violence. As with all culture, welfare and socialism are evil. Tyranny has destroyed countless more lives than poverty could ever dream. In times of poverty, only one thing stands in the way of people: government. Governments use violence to restrict freedom and therefore people's ability to better their lives. Under the pretense of ending poverty, authorities have used compulsion and violence to create more death and destruction than any storm, any famine, or any drought. Tyranny has destroyed countless more lives than poverty could ever even dream. In times of poverty, only one thing stands in the way of people: government. Oh, I'm reading this for a second time. Shit, I'll edit this out in the final cut. It is the element of force that belies the tyranny of all socialistic ideals. Without force, there is no evil in them. With force, they are the same as any other government. They bring misery to humanity. Next is dictators. A dictator bears similarity to the kings of royalty while maintaining a culture of nationalism. There is the common belief in history that dictators and kings are noble. Anytime a national culture is strong, leaders are thought of as pure and righteous. Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler are just two examples. After their deaths, their people were shocked to learn that the atrocities of their nations were created by them. History records endless testimonies of people who History records endless testimonies of people who believed that the terror in their lives was happening without these leaders' knowledge. National Socialists eventually viewed the terror they brought to Europe as a defensive war. Wherever you see culture supporting an authority or trying to implement an authority, you will find the destruction of freedom. In every culture, people are deceived into believing that authority is good. Even when they can see the tyranny of authority in history, they fail to see it in their own culture. The greatest mistakes of history have been those of inaction. Killing a man because he advocates the destruction of liberty sounds extreme to people of all cultures. Culture indoctrinates people with this thinking. Yet the logic of killing Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, and Vladimir Lenin, instead of allowing them to destroy the liberty and lives of billions, is unavoidable. The idea of killing a dictator in cold blood before they murdered millions is offensive because the cultures who protect these leaders designed themselves that way. And so evil prospers. Peace is found when people stand for morality and reject culture. Defend freedom at all costs and at all times, and peace will rule the world instead of tyrants. Morality enforced. Cultures love teaching people that morality is properly enforced. It is the ultimate deceit, a powerful lie. Cultures teach that morality and prudence are one and the same. Culture can easily claim authority over people when they believe that doing something foolish is the same as doing something evil. Morality is freedom. Immorality is the destruction of freedom. Morality is good. Immorality is evil. Culture would have you believe that morality is a question of personal vice. It pretends that imprudence is the same thing as immorality. When people believe that enforcing prudence is the same as defending liberty, they can be used to support dramatic increases in the power of authority over people. The Inquisitions of medieval times used the ideas of enforcing morality to expand the powers of the Roman Church. They created law and enforcement to force church government into people's lives. It was culturally acceptable because they were enforcing quote-unquote morality instead of simple arbitrary control. The American prohibition of alcohol was touted as a way to counter the effects of alcohol's control over people. In order to fight that control, the U.S. government established a massive police force to control the lives of people. Those who would force prudence on people teach that people are not able to learn intelligent behaviors on their own. Culture teaches that people must not be free to make personal mistakes. It teaches that people are not worthy of ruling their own lives. Without freedom, prudence is meaningless. Environmentalism. Remember, this is a tactic of evil. Environmentalism shares the ideals of communism. It teaches that greed is the enemy and that those in search of money will destroy the earth. The enemy of greed is the same enemy that communism employs. It is the same lie. They both teach that without authority, free people will destroy themselves. They both teach that government is necessary to enforce security. Environmentalism has one new twist on the ancient lies of evil. It teaches that the dirt you stand on is more valuable than you. It teaches that authority is necessary to ensure that you do not destroy it. As with all evil, it really only cares that you obey. What excuse people choose to follow is of no concern to evil. Culture teaches that the only security to be found in life is in government. Only they can secure your water, your air, and your food. Yield authority to them. The strength of environmentalism is that it can be used to regulate every aspect of your life. Transportation, food, housing, energy, and communication, they all fall under this umbrella of regulation and control. Environmentalism is just one more excuse to implement slavery. Bureaucracy. It is extremely important to see that bureaucracy is not just an inconvenience. The slavery of bureaucracy lies in force and compulsion. Those under its power are taught to overlook bureaucracy as just another fact of life. The truth is that bureaucracy does not sustain or improve life. It drains it. The culture of bureaucracy is incredibly strong in many areas of the world. It is able to convince people that they are free while subjecting them to reams of licensing, fees, permissions, and reporting requirements. Failure to obey results in fines, imprisonment, or death. This is their freedom. Bureaucracy benefits primarily those who make their money from it. These are government employees and controllers. One of their favored tactics in achieving new regulation is the stacking of laws. An example is safety requirements like helmet or seatbelt laws. Such things presume goodness, but evil does not care if you are safe. It only cares that you are forced. Bureaucrats make the case for new regulations by leveraging previous regulation. They may extort money for the purpose of paying medical costs for trauma victims. They can then claim the need for helmet and seatbelt laws because they are obligated to pay medical costs. A bureaucrat's solution to problems created by law is more law. Their obvious objective is law itself. Terrorism. Terrorism has nothing to do with America and nothing to do with religion. Terrorism follows the pattern of tyranny precisely. Many areas of the world are dramatically affected by increasing technology. As messages and images of freedom reach new corners of the world, people begin to see the tyranny of their own cultures. As culture loses its grip on people, authority increases its violence. Terrorism is authority attempting to teach people that freedom is depravity and corruption. Terrorism is authority attempting to teach people that freedom is anarchy, that freedom is to be feared. Terrorism has been used throughout history to coerce populations to yield their authority and governance to those hungry for power and lacking of conscience. Terrorism is rarely used against those over whom power is sought. Hitler's terrorism against the Jews is a formidable example of the use of terror to gain power over the German people. Al-Qaeda exemplifies the use of terrorism against American peoples in order to maintain power and influence over Islamic peoples. Terrorism is proof of the pattern of liberty. It is precisely because tyrannical states are afraid of losing the grip that they have had over their peoples for so long that terrorism is a rising factor in the world. Evil is afraid. Rights. There is no such thing as a right. All people are inherently free. The idea of right was created by men who sought to free people from some of the burdens of government, but who still believed that governments were supreme over men. The problem with rights is that they offer certain delineated permissions granted to men by government. After these, government can still dispose of you as it pleases. Even in measures of restriction, there is still this still teaches people that they have less value than law. The truth is that you are free, and there is no authority that has any claim upon you ever. You are, by your nature, already free. This is the value of a human being. Law enforcement. Culture teaches that police are the only ones whose right it is to defend a people. It teaches that if people were able to defend themselves, anarchy would be the result. The penalty for defending yourself instead of relying on police protection is usually extremely severe. The reason is obvious. It shows the ultimate tyranny of law. If you aren't helpless, then they have little premise to remain in power over you. The intention of law enforcement is not to defend your liberty. It is to defend the stability of the machines of extortion. Laws do not say, quote, no killing, no raping, no stealing, end quote. Instead, they are volume upon volume of minutia controlling every aspect of life and destroying liberty wherever they go. Every government agency are enforcers of these laws. The law is not righteous, neither are the enforcers of it. It is a mistake to blindly respect law enforcement as noble and brave. Laws are designed to control, not to protect. An officer of government may believe that what he is doing is right. This is exactly what culture wants him to think. Every single one of the hundreds of millions who have died at the hands of government died under legal premise. Law is not morality. Laws, rules, and regulations by themselves are of little danger to humanity. They presume authority to rule over you, and culture demands that you obey them, but they would eventually be ignored as people test and finally discover freedom. It is the violent enforcement of law that bears the ultimate evil. Enforcement is the core of law, since all laws require enforcement in order to control people. Respect for law enforcement is an invitation to tyranny. Every culture in the history of Earth, has taught its people that police are good and noble. Medieval knights excused their tyranny by calling it chivalry. Terrorist cultures excuse theirs by calling it religion. No matter what culture you observe, you will find a belief that the enforcers of law are good. The important question has nothing to do with the nobility of the people who enforce law. It is a question of the nobility of the law. Presuming the righteousness of the agents who enforce the law is precisely what cultures are designed to do because they excuse the nature of the law. This invitation is exploited heavily by history's dictators, kings, and mafias. What better place to hide atrocities large and small than the very group of armed men who hold a monopoly on violence and respect? The penalty for disobeying authority is always death. All who have stood in the open rebellion against existing powers throughout history were killed. Today, even in quote-unquote free nations, men are killed for rebellion. If they cannot force you to obey with intimidation, they use threat. If threat is not enough, they use kidnapping and imprisonment. If that fails, you will be murdered. Which law you break is irrelevant. Even such a little law as a speeding ticket, fail to pull over, resist arrest, try to escape, or fight back. It happens regularly. The penalty is death. Price of government. The stiffest penalties of law are reserved not for those that you are to be protected from, but for those who fail to pay the price of protection. The entire purpose of evil is to enslave you, to destroy your freedom in order to make you a tool for someone else's use. Just as mafia extortion rackets reserve brutal beatings for those who fail to pay the tax, the world's most effective governments use a system of threats, abuse, intimidation, imprisonment, and death to ensure that taxes are paid. This isn't a side note. This is the very purpose for why cultures and law are created, to sacrifice your labor for the benefit of your masters. When law challenges its competition, it labels them criminals and racketeers. The definition of racketeering is the creation of a threat and then charging the protection for protection against it. Such racketeering is institutionalized slavery. Mafias and governments follow the same pattern. History shows us that the names given to each are a matter of who is the more successful extortionist. So here's a summary. Nations lay claim to people based upon where they are born with respect to imaginary geographic lines. The truth is that a nation is simply a group of people with guns who will kill you if you do not obey them. Borders and land masses have nothing to do with your value as a human being. They are created to offer rulers stability as they exercise power over you. We, quote unquote, we, is the word commandeered by culture to legitimize the borders and boundaries of law. You are obligated to obey law under penalty of death because you are a part of the quote unquote we within an imaginary geographic line. This is not a we you have joined by choice. This is not a we you can escape. Your ownership of land, your family, and your values are not important to we. In our world, the only escape from the tyranny of we is to substitute one we for another, assuming we let you. Evil would have you believe that you are a subject of borders. This is a lie. After millennia of kings, those who were not royalty but sought power found a way to seize it. Nations allowed evil men to remain in control of culture and law, to have authority. Hitler called his version National Socialism. Vladimir Lenin called his version communism. Some are called empires, some theocracies, and some democracies. All have one thread in common: the supremacy of the state. Under nations, culture teaches that no one is above the law. And because nations are defined geographically, no one can escape the law. Put more concisely, nations teach that you are worth less than the law. The definition of evil is the destruction of freedom. If governments were what they pretend by choice, they would not be government. They would be charitable institutions. Since choice is destroyed, freedom is dead, and whomever can control the government prevails. Governments, by definition, hold a monopoly on violence. Those who seek power over you will not fight your government. Why fight it when what they wanted to begin with was authority over you? You already have the institution of evil men seek. It is natural for evil to seek its place in government. History shows us that every nation ever devised can and will be used as a tool on behalf of evil men. Evil seeks power. This is an immutable truth. The more power you vest in government, the more evil you will find there. Get ready. Chapter 6, Democracy. Slavery impersonates liberty. The absolute pinnacle of cultural success is to convince people that they are free in their slavery. Democracy is an invented theory, not a moral truth. It is a construct of evil. It was created to impersonate freedom while still maintaining the grip of law over people. As in every instance in history, the pattern of tyranny repeats itself by reinventing lies to hide the same slavery. Democracy is about making slaves and masters of slaves. The teachings of the world's great democracies are those of liberty and a voice for every person. They teach us that democracies are the greatest possible form of government. The reason they give is that democracy offers a voice for the common man. Unlike kings, dictators, and communists, democracy allows most people to have say in the affairs of their neighbors. The evil of democracy knows no freedom. A free person has none to enslave him. Instead, democracies offer everyone the opportunity to enslave you. Majority rule. Democratic culture teaches the rule of law. It teaches that law created by majority rule is morality. Any law, any demand, any punishment is moral when implemented by the majority. Perversions of democracy, such as democratic republics and supermajorities, are no different. Any law able to be passed by representative, majority, supermajority, or any other group becomes morality. Or does it? If you can convince 50% of a people to enslave themselves or their neighbors, is it moral? If you can convince 66%, 75%, 99%, or everyone, is it morality? The affliction of law is a game to evil. Evil seeks control over people in order to destroy their worth. It does not care who enslaves whom or why. There is no morality in law. Democratic teaching says that as soon as the legal voting bloc approves a law, it is right and proper to inflict it upon a people. Why should the destruction of your freedom be acceptable just because someone else says so? Does evil become righteous when more people desire it? Would evil be righteous if all people desired it? Tyranny by one king is the same as tyranny by 100 million kings. It is the nature of compulsion in law that is evil. How the law is achieved is meaningless. Hiding tyranny in the constructs of representative government and majority rule is commonplace in our modern world. After so many millennia of royalty and warlords, people have learned to see some of the evil in tyranny. Thousands of years were required to discard the notion of nobility and divine right of rule. Today, many in the world have an understanding that there is no birthright to rule over others as a king. But the deviousness of evil has pushed that burden upon individual concepts instead of upon itself. Evil teaches modern peoples that royalty and dictators were a mistake, but that submission to your neighbors is right. In early U.S. history, the majority allowed the enslaving and systematic dehumanization of Africans. Did the law of democracy moralize slavery? Theories such as majority rule are inherently evil. Evil would have you believe that evil is good and that freedom is anarchy. From the position of a free individual, it is horrendous to watch members of a democracy not only swallow the quote-unquote rule of law as inflicted in all manner and form upon their lives, but also to witness the self-same victims inflict differing versions of morality upon their neighbors. Some people believe that democracies are a safe and proper form of government since the majority of people are decent. They believe that the majority will set proper rules for the minority. This belief teaches two lies. First, that there is nobility in law, that it is right to force the minority to obey. Second, that the minority, who, if left to themselves, will destroy the lives of everyone else. The minority are controlled and forced by a system of police and law to conform to the correct manner of behavior defined as crime. None of this has anything to do with defending the liberty of the majority. It is about controlling the minority. It is about conditioning the majority to the taste of evil. The thirst for power over others is the lure of democracy. There is no majority. The modern history of powerful democracies has shown that there is no such thing as the quote-unquote majority or the quote-unquote minority. Factions of ideologies within populations fragment democratic societies into countless splinters. Different approaches, compromises, and rules break apart any possibility of a single majority, while still creating endless compulsion via law. Because of this, you are guaranteed, regardless of who you are, to be in some majority circles and some minority circles. You will taste of both the control over others in dictating law and the slavery of having law dictated upon you. Your neighbor, who may otherwise think like you, will be willing to sacrifice your liberty to achieve some of his means. Likewise, in a democracy, you will be tempted to make criminals of your neighbors. As soon as culture teaches people that it is right and proper to destroy liberty under any premise, authority splinters and tyranny grows. Violence and destruction. Democracy creates violence and destruction. Democracy teaches people that it is proper to inflict your will by force upon others. Indeed, it teaches people that they are entitled to make anything from their neighbors by force, to take anything from their neighbors by force. Democracies are always welfare states because everyone is able to create laws legitimizing theft. The strongest democracies have the highest taxation and the most regulation. Government employees are able to influence laws to benefit their own positions and salaries. The more regulation created, the more opportunities for pirating in the name of propriety. Many wish to control behavior in the name of religion, environment, economics, decency, and safety. Democracy teaches that these things have more value than human beings. Evil always teaches that achieving specific behaviors from people is more important than the people themselves. Evil would have you believe that righteousness is found in propriety instead of you. When democratic cultures strengthen, it is obvious to everyone that the legitimacy of law is a farce. Any law is noble as soon as it becomes law. What would be considered the crimes of kidnapping, mugging, and murder are now committed for you in proxy by police. Mature democracies will find certain people who begin dispensing with the excuse of law and simply take what they want when they want it. This is no more evil than law. It's just more efficient. The height of democracy is the chaos of men stealing from men, destroying each other's liberty at will, and crushing the human spirit simply because they can. The height of democracy is an inability to think, to speak, or to act for fear of law. This is not anarchy. This is tyranny. Tyranny is always disguised as culture and law. Perfect evil. To understand the nature of democracy, it is essential to understand that evil is the destruction of freedom. The stability of control is the engineering design of culture. The more stability that authority can exert with, the better. The stability in history is non-existent. Wars have been fought continually. Empires have been born and destroyed throughout the millennia. Nearly every excuse for tyranny has been tried and eventually overcome. Human beings seek liberty in their lives because liberty is the nature of humanity. Liberty is life. Our continual struggle against evil has been recorded by history. Evil has eventually lost every war it started. This is a testament to the strength of goodness of humanity. It is also a testament of the adaptability and evolution of evil. Every form of tyranny has failed because people eventually recognized it and retrieved their own liberty. Evil has found a solution to its losses in making partners of its slaves. Democracy is the greatest evil that can possibly exist. It is a greater evil than communism and a greater evil than royalty. All other forms of tyranny are obviously evil because they allowed a few to control the lives of all. Freedom was destroyed for nearly everyone. Democracy, however, teaches that you are free enough to vote, a seemingly better system. Unfortunately, it legitimizes other people's voting away your freedoms. This makes it evil. What makes it pure evil, and the greatest form of evil that can possibly exist, is that you also vote to take away freedoms. Democracy is pure evil. Everyone becomes a slave, and everyone becomes a master of slaves. Perfect evil. Okay. All right, so that's tonight. That's the chapter 5 and 6 of The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. Yeah, I never really thought of democracy that way until a lot, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the first time I ever read the PDF of this book, or I got my hands on a different audiobook version of this. I believe it was a different audiobook version than the one I'm creating here on my channel. And that part really stood out to me because it seems just so perfect, like perfect evil, you know? Everyone becomes a slave and everyone becomes a master of slaves. Everyone that's voting is complicit in this, and that's what makes voting evil. And you're complicit in the system that is performing these violent actions. They have a monopoly on violence, and they're creating slavery, and therefore they're creating evil. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. We have live comments coming in here at any time now. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe people aren't talkative tonight, and that's okay. Let me check to see. Nope, that's okay. And so, anyways, yeah. I'm sure I could have been probably a little bit more prepared for tonight and talking about recent events here at the tail end of the show. It's still very disturbing out there. I mean, to see the type of tomfoolery that's going on. And I mean, did you guys see? Did everyone see this clip of this Marine standing up at the Senate hearing? Not to talk too much about recent events, but let's just kind of wing it here. This Marine stood up at a Senate hearing and voiced his opinion on the war in the Middle East, saying no one wants to go to war for Israel and that it's not right. And they fucking got him out of there. The Capitol Police tackled a Marine and got him out of there. And then a senator joined in on the fun and helped in helping remove this Marine from the room. And the guy got his arm caught in a door and they broke the guy's fucking arm. These people will eat each other. First of all, the Marine, whether or not you want to, go down the path of order follower, he's right. No one wants to fight a war for Israel. It's wrong. It's not, and he said it's not right. He's correct. It is not right. And they fucking got him out of there. The senator in question is, I think, Tim Meehee or something like that. I forget his name, but he's on the payroll. He's on the payroll for AIPAC. And that's hilarious. I mean, of course, he's going to jump in and be like, no, not in my house, because, they don't want to hear that stuff. He's an anti-Semite because he doesn't want American people to be dying in a war in the Middle East on behalf of a foreign country, a welfare state, by the way, who's been bleeding off of our stolen tax dollars for decades now. Well, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to ostracize anybody in my audience. I don't want to seem as though I'm rejecting anybody because of their religious belief. I'm not. I'm saying that Israel is a government and all government is evil, and I don't appreciate them going to war. I think war is evil. I want war to stop. And it's just another example of the system kind of churning itself under. And it's a pretty obvious example of how they say you have freedom of speech. And the reason why we're supposedly entitled to having this freedom of speech enshrined in the Constitution is so we can go and confront the government and speak out against it and say, we think what you're doing is wrong. Now, a Marine, I keep saying it's a Marine because I want to drill into people's heads that they don't care anymore. If you're one of them or anyone else, you start talking about what they're doing and they're gonna get rid of you. They're gonna get you out of there. You start speaking out against them in front of them. They don't care about the Constitution. Like Lysander Spooner, the dude right here. This dude right here. Lysander Spooner said it probably the best. And this was all the way back in the 19th century, late 19th century. He wrote this book, The Constitution of No Authority. It's a series of essays that he wrote, but this is a compilation of those essays. And so we read it on the channel. You can go and check it out. There's the entirety of it is on the channel. And I read it live on the air last year sometime. But he said, and maybe I'm paraphrasing a bit, but something to the effect of the Constitution has either permitted a government such as this to come into existence or has been powerless to stop it, a government such as this, from coming into existence. So where is the government? Where is the Constitution? Where is the Bill of Rights? Where is that power that we, tonight's reading kind of went over the culture of we, the people, are supposedly entitled to these rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights. For the record, these are the rights that this reading was referring to in that section of the Tactics of Evil. It's not talking, I don't believe, in context of what we explored tonight. I don't believe the context implies about natural rights, because, of course there's natural rights. We can see that we can see that being, the evidence is pretty extreme, that there are certain actions that are right and certain actions that are wrong. And we want to avoid those wrong actions, right? So, right. So I believe that in the context of the book, that's what we were referring to tonight as rights, as a tactic of evil, that the evil is going to tell you what your rights are, and that those rights can change so long as the majority like in a democracy, votes that the rulers can change those rights one way or another. Think of all of the infringements upon gun ownership, right? Gun ownership is supposedly a natural right. That's why it's in the Bill of Rights, our natural right to defend ourselves against evil, tyrannous bastards that want to enslave us exists in all times, in all places, regardless of whether or not it's written down in ballpoint pen, quill with a fucking inkwell. Doesn't matter. However it's written down, wherever it's written down, it doesn't need to be written down. You can burn all those documents and it would still be the same because it's a natural right. It doesn't need to be written down. It's a healthy form of communication. It might as well just be a letter that one person is sending to another, pen pal style. However, with enough of the majority, and this is the psyop of all the school shootings, whether or not these events happen or not is not up for discussion here. That's not, and I don't mean to restrict anybody's speech by saying that. I mean that I'm not discussing whether or not those events happened or not. I'm saying that we know one thing for sure happened is the narrative was formed around those events to get into people's minds, to get them to consent. It's engineered consent. You see, it's not done voluntarily when it's engineered because it's by way of deception that they're engineering this consent. And no matter who tries to tell you that people are doing these things voluntarily, it's not true. When it's engineered consent, it is not done voluntarily because you're being lied to. It's deception. Therefore, something has been stolen from you. Therefore, the way you act after the fact of that deception is not informed. It's engineered. So the psyop is in the narrative formed around all of these things, these events, to get you, the people, to consent to laws being formed to take away your ability to defend yourself with equal means as the government or whomever may or may not have in order to oppress you. You see? So this is what we have to fight against. We have to be mentally sharp in order to understand that everything that comes out of their mouths is a lie, or it is a narrative being constructed to control you and your mind. So we got to be on our toes. And so you got to, in a reading like this, you got to understand that this is evergreen information. And even though this book was written, a few decades ago, a couple decades ago, it came out in the early 2000s. It's still as true and as valuable of information today, 20 years later, 20 something years later. So what we're seeing develop is another psyop, another narrative being constructed around what's going on in the Middle East, when you should know by now. Please look into this for yourself because it's extremely interesting. Look into the history of World War I. I know it's like, wait a minute, hold on. It's 2026. Why are we going back 100 years? Because it's important to understand the development of war through the 20th century, because it's what leads to now. And when you understand that it's all about debt, banks, natural resources, and, failed coup attempts on part of MI6, CIA, OSS, before it was CIA, you understand that what's going on in the Middle East is completely not what they're selling it as. It's not. It's not about freedom to these people. It's not about spreading democracy. It's not about bringing freedom to the Middle East. It's about doing a weird thing where they're just going to, with Israel specifically, it's not just the Anglo-American establishment anymore. It's the Anglo-Israeli American establishment. And it's all about the natural resources. It's all about banks and money. And they're using soldiers as pawns to go and basically install a global panopticon where there is no escape. And we have to be diligent, and we have to understand this in order to effectively fight against it. We got to comment in the chat from Trailer Park Tornado. Trailer Park Tornado first said that they never thought of it the way described tonight. Wow, disturbing. Yeah, that goes along with how I felt after I first heard it some years ago. And honestly, like, this is the chapter that made me think about bringing this information to this channel and making it available with my voice. I thought it was valuable enough to do that. And then Trailer Park Tornado goes on to say that Marine story is a good example of what was read tonight. Yeah, I believe so. I mean, the evil will stop at nothing to suppress people's free speech. And if you notice, some of the headlines that are going out there are saying that this guy was unhinged. They're creating a narrative. They're creating a culture. Again, they're maybe not creating, they're perpetuating the culture of obedience and blind, obedience to what the government is doing by calling people who are saying we don't want to go to war for Israel, because that's exactly what's going on. Another government has nothing to do with Jewish people. Nothing. In my heart, it's nothing to do with it being Jewish people. We could be going to war for England again, or France again. And I would be sitting here saying the exact same thing in the exact same context. So before you try to go pin any of that stupid fucking illogical bullshit on me about being an anti-Semite, just realize who you're talking about. I'm an anti-statist is what I am. So we're going to war on behalf of a foreign country. That foreign country just so happens to be Israel. We shouldn't be doing that. It's wrong. War is wrong, especially wars of aggression. Okay, if we were defending ourselves, then that'd be one thing, but we're not. There is no defend. We're not defending ourselves against people that we provoked in the first place 60 years ago. Like, people they have such a short view of history, and I'm not well versed in it enough to give you the entire lesson, but there's certain points where it's like you get Operation Ajax and certain other things throughout history where we have provoked that region into a mode of self-defense, and we have to be, I keep saying, see, even I am just unconsciously using this term we, because it's part of the training. See how easy it is? The United States has done these things, and the school system, which I only went to for a few years anyways, got to me just a little bit. See, like, you got to look inward sometimes and admit when you're doing something. It's pretty, it's actually pretty relieving when you do that. So yeah, when you go back and you look, these people have been provoked. So we're just, going to sit here and continue to take it? The Marine, and I will continue to refer to him as a Marine because it's important to know that he's an order follower just as well. And the things that he has done in his life have emboldened the people that are doing the evil deeds right now. That's a fact. It's just the truth. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But even a person like that can stand up and speak the truth, because he is right. The United States should not be doing these things. Anyways, I feel like I'm talking in circles. I was getting to mention some of the headlines that I'm seeing on social media, various headlines that I'm seeing. They're perpetuating the culture of obedience and calling a guy that's speaking out against what's going on as they're referring to him as unhinged. What this is doing. Okay. So what's the point of labeling? It's to create shame. Don't act like that. Otherwise, you're going to be seen as this. And it's supposed to generate a sense of shame and in people. And it's supposed to generate a sense of self-censorship among people that see action A leads to reaction B, or, whatever. this action leads to this reaction. If you speak out against this war, people are going to see you as an unhinged anti-Semite. And through culture, we have been trained to see, to see those things as being not preferable to your comfort in your maybe social circles. This is how they suppress people acting correctly and speaking out against immorality, is the sense of not being included in the group, and the sense of of shame that you might feel. This goes back all the way to public schools with some of the public shaming techniques that they use on young students to kind of culturally herd the group together, to make sure that everybody knows that these are the actions that you're not supposed to do. They make examples out of young people all the time. You're looking at one of them, when I'm standing there in kindergarten saying, like, I don't want to sit over there during story time. I'm going to sit over here, and I get punished. No one wants to be the kid that's going to stand up and disobey the teacher because they know that they don't want to be punished. It's done out of fear, and they use that fear against people, and that's what they're doing right now. It's our job to be bold and be courageous enough that even in the face of public scrutiny, even in the face of shame and all of the ostracization that we might get on this end of the fight for freedom, and the ways that we need to stand up and speak on behalf of freedom and speak about morality as the conduit for freedom, that we have to be bold. We have to understand that, doing the right thing, there's not always it doesn't always feel like you're being rewarded for doing it, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do regardless. Now, that's not me saying to go out and do anything violent that could be perceived as violent, right? But we have to start somewhere, we have to start sometime. And I feel a little weird quoting Zach De La Rocha because I don't like Rage Against the Machine too much, but they, whatever. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now? How do we do it? We do it peacefully by speaking up and speaking out against the people who are the authorities and who are going to try to oppress us. And that's just it, because this is the long game. It is the long game. We lived through COVID. Okay. We've lived through in my lifetime since 1989, there has been basically just a perpetual state of war going on. And, and even through the 90s, it was a little tumultuous on the war front, but after 9/11, up until, just, up until now, it's been constant. So what is the end goal there is basically just, it seems to me, to be complete slavery is what their goal is. And it can't happen if people are aware and if people are speaking out. Okay. Not to mention the fact that they are, that these punk asses are raping and eating children. And of course they're going to start a war when that information starts coming out. But we have to, even at that point, we have to think critically about the Epstein files as well, because they're also the same people, they're the ones releasing the files. So it's a very strange time. It's a very strange time because you want to believe what's in those files, but at the same time, you got to go, wait a second here. There's no way that those files exonerate Donald Trump. There's no fucking way. There's just no way. So anyways, guys, I don't know if my rant here is over or what, or if it's coherent or incoherent, but it's like coming out and just like, let me know what you guys think about this reading in the comments. Let's see. I want to direct everybody to go over to voluntaristacademy.com. And when you do that, when you go to voluntaristacademy.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. And should anything happen to this YouTube channel, You'll be able to hear from me if you sign up to the newsletter. You do that, it's free. And when you sign up, you get a free PDF. Save you the trouble of by signing up, and it'll save you the trouble of having to track down the PDF on your own. The PDF that you get is a copy of The Voluntarist Creed by Auburn Herbert. If you don't know, Auburn Herbert is the man who coined the term voluntarist. He coined the term voluntarism. And in the Voluntarist Creed, it's broken up into two sections. One is a letter or an essay about Herbert Spencer, and then the second half is an essay called The Voluntarist. It's called A Plea for Voluntarism. That's the second half of the book. And I read that whole second half on this channel. There's a video called A Plea for Voluntarism by Auburn Herbert on this channel if you would like to hear the reading of that. But if you'd like to read it for yourself, you can get it directed to your inbox automatically when you sign up to the newsletter. It's important to sign up to this newsletter because this channel is well on its way to being, you know, it's only a matter of time before a channel like this gets kind of taken down. We're doing well. We're doing well. I think I'm staying within the guidelines pretty well without compromising my own integrity in my message. So, and then eventually what is going to happen through this newsletter is all of the slides, the images that you saw tonight, that I've converted the end of all evil into these slides will be made available to you when you sign up to the newsletter. I will be releasing them to the people on the mailing list. And that'll be a fun thing for you guys to have, and you'll be able to share them around, go through them. And there's going to be hundreds of slides. I mean, this is part 3. I think next week will be the epic conclusion, will be chapter 7, 8, and 9. And we'll just bang it right out, no matter how long it's going to be. I think it'll be probably another 125 slides. Tonight, there was 95 slides. In the previous weeks, I think there was between 100 and 120 slides each week. So in total, thus far, has been it's been about 350 slides so far of this book. By the end, it might be 500 slides. Who knows? Somewhere between 400 and 500. And you'll be able to get all of those for free just by signing up to the newsletter. But I'm going to do it after everything's done. I'm going to start releasing them after everything is done. That way I can just kind of, release them in a timely manner. And also after this whole entire series is done, I'll be doing a super cut of just the readings. And then you can just go back and listen to the entirety. It'll be like a book on tape, and you'll be able to listen to the entirety of it without having to listen to my rants or my plugs or anything like that. It'll be nice. And you can come back and listen to these and see if you find something, that you need to be reminded of in my little rants that I like to do each week. And I try to have the energy and the charisma to do each week. You can become a sponsor if you want to support this show more than just giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. If you feel that it's in your means to help this project keep going and growing, you can become a sponsor by clicking this button here. And $3 a month is, I think, a pretty good deal. Most people spend, $3 a day on a cup of coffee, but just, one less cup of coffee a month, and you'll be able to join a Discord server where you'll be able to converse with me more often and more directly. And I'm also trying to get in my schedule a bi-weekly Zoom meeting, town hall type event, where we'll be able to get on a call and we can just have conversations. And as more time goes on, this offer will expand, and there'll be more to be had by being a member. And with expansions like that, so comes the increase in price. So, but if you become a $3 a month member now, then you're locked in at $3 a month, no matter what happens. You're at $3 a month, and there's only 30 spots available for $3 a month. And I might expand that if. So anyways, anything's possible. So, yeah, just come over to voluntaristacademy.com and see about that. If none of that interests you at all, I understand. I get it. I want you to also just remember that over here we have all the things. Some of these things I haven't read on the channel, but most of them I have, and I've tried to make these easy to find here to download, and for you guys to be able to come over to the resources page and to download things over here, and to maybe catch up on older episodes. But you're already on the channel. See, the thing is that, like, you're already on the channel that all these links send you to anyways. But you can also, back to different ways that you can support this operation is over here at the support page. One-time donations, you can do that too. All sorts of ways, all sorts of cryptocurrencies and ways that you guys can support this operation, this project of mine, Voluntarist Academy. Hey, if you want to just like send me a message, just a polite, brief message, maybe you have a criticism, something I could be doing better or differently, or if you want to just give me a positive message to send my way to keep the wind in my sails, either way, you can do that over here at the contact page. I just ask politely for people to keep the message brief and to make your point clear so I know exactly what you're saying, and who knows, I might respond. Go over to the onegreatworknetwork.com. If you do that, you're going to find a huge list of content creators that are in the space of natural law, freedom, liberty, the occult, all sorts of things that you might find yourself interested in. And there's little old me right here, James Cordiner. And all sorts of different people over here giving their input and spreading the message of natural law. And you can go over there, onegreatworknetwork.com. We got season 15 of Autonomy, the course run by Richard Grove, coming up pretty soon. I don't know why that web page isn't loading, but we're going to move on. You can go over to getautonomy.info, sign up, see if it's right for you, and tell them James Cordiner sent you. And you'll be able to kind of see what this course is all about. All right, so I think that's going to do it for me tonight, guys. As you go forward in the world, just remember one thing, that you own yourself, period. It is it is a principle of freedom and of liberty, is self-ownership. And I gave a speech at Funnel 5 on the channel. It's called Burn the System Down. This is how. And in that speech, I kind of outline, I give my input on what I think it takes to really be in ownership of yourself. And so go over there and check that out. And yeah, you own yourself, period. No one else owns you. The slavery that is out there is very much real, but the authority enforcing it is a lie. It's a superstition. And we need to fortify our minds and say no thank you please to the would-be controllers, and kind of just exit and get away from them if we can. So we also don't want to pull the ladder up behind us, which is why we continue doing work like this, speaking out against it, hoping more people wake up before it's too late. You got to invest in the future. It's coming. Not to be anxious and scared of it, and not to let the future take you out of the present moment too much, but it will happen. It will come. What kind of future do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a dystopian future that we've seen in so many movies? The movies that are there to program you to be willing and accepting of such a future? Or do we want it to be one of prosperity and freedom and love? We can make each one. We can make either one. We can do it. The choice is yours, but we can't do it alone. So let's get something going, get out there, speak up about this, and see what happens, Yeah, that's it. That's it for me tonight, guys. All right. Catch you next time. Peace.
No masters, no slaves, no rulers, no state.